Welcome to
W-A-S. What's happening, American Studies?
We bring you the news in funky fashion!
Good morning, American Studies. Today is Friday, August 9th, 1974. A pivotal moment in our country's history because yesterday, Richard Nixon became the first president ever to resign from office.
Whoa, Susan. Take it down a notch. Before things get too serious, I'd like to tell a joke. How did Nixon sleep in the White House?
I don't know, Deb. How?
Well, first he lied on one side, and then he lied on the other.
Oh, Deb, you're a riot!
Anyway, on with the Watergate scandal. Today we'll be recapping the past 2 years, starting with the fated day that it all started, June 17th, 1972. 5 men were arrested around 1 a.m. that morning after breaking into the Democratic National Committee office at the Watergate Office Park in Washington, D.C. Among the men arrested were former CIA agent Bernard Baker and security chief of the Committee to Re-elect the President, James W. McCord, Jr.
It was soon discovered that the men were breaking into the office with the goal of placing bugs to record conversations as well as to steal confidential paperwork from the Democratic Party. The president claimed at the time to not have any knowledge of the break-in, though it was men from a committee for his re-election that were behind it. Not suspicious at all.
By October of '72, the FBI had determined that Watergate was a small fish in the big pond of political sabotage and illegal activity run by the big Republican sharks. Despite suspicion and aforementioned illegal activity, Nixon was re-elected by a popular vote margin of 60%.
Or was he re-elected by the aid of creep?
Susan, what's creep?
Well, Deb, creep is a humorous nickname given to the CRP, Committee to Re-elect the President. Creep is behind the Watergate scandal, and so one can only wonder if they had a sketchy role in the election of '72.
Thanks, Susan. I actually already knew that, but we needed to include it in our broadcast for our more clueless viewers. You know who you are.
After Nixon's re-election, televised hearings of the men involved began in May of 1973. Archibald Cox was appointed special prosecutor for the case, which would prove not to be an issue until much later.
Susan, you're getting ahead of yourself, silly goose. Before you say more, we need to let the viewers know that in May of 1973, it was revealed that Nixon had been taping himself in the Oval Office. What a great idea that was.
Then, in a surge of guilty conscience, Nixon committed the Saturday Night Massacre. He tried to fire Archibald Cox through both the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General, but both men refused to do the job. In the end, Cox was fired, and the Special Prosecutor's Office obliterated, but Nixon also lost his Attorney Generals. Let's hope no future presidents try to trump investigations like this.
In December, the president's life got even worse. No one thought this was possible, but I guess we were wrong. First, Vice President Spiro Agnew resigned, leaving the spot vacant. In midst of panic, the 25th Amendment was passed, which allowed Nixon to appoint Gerald Ford as his vice president and established more language on how to deal with vacant offices.
Next, the White House tapes were revealed to be missing parts. We now know these minutes to contain all of the information needed to impeach Nixon, and so he refused to turn them over for months. That man kept those tapes more secret than the Pentagon Papers were supposed to be. The Supreme Court eventually had to intervene, and on August 2nd, Nixon gave the tapes over to investigation. Our news team has put together a simulation of the so-called smoking gun tape.
Mitchell came up with yesterday, and John Dean analyzed very carefully last night and concurs now with Mitchell's recommendation that the only way to solve this, and we're set up beautifully to do it, in that the only network that paid any attention to last night was NBC, who did a massive story on the Cuban thing and all. That the way to handle this now is for us to have Walters call Pat Gray and just say, stay the hell out of this. This is business here. We don't want you going any further on. That's not an unusual development. And that would take care of it. That the FBI guys working the case had concluded that there were one or two possibilities. One, that this was a White House think there's anything about the election committee. They think it was either a White House operation that had some obscure reasons for it, non-political, or was the Cubans and the CIA. And after their interrogation of Colson yesterday, they concluded it was not White House, so they're now convinced it's a CIA thing. So the CIA turnoff would.
Well, I must have a analysis. I can't check that close.
You don't want to check.
You called me. Good deal. Play it tough. That's the way they play it. That's the way we're going to play it.
Okay.
So now you're all caught up. Nixon left office maintaining his not guilty plea, but we all know he's an even bigger phony than Holden Caulfield.
We can expect the trial of the scandal in the next couple months, where John Dean III will testify against Nixon. Dean is especially upset about Nixon's actions and is not expected to take his side.
Well, that's the Watergate scandal for you folks. Catch you later. Are you a Republican? Are you curious about the goings-on in the DNC office? Do you support Nixon's re-election? If you answered yes to any of these questions, we have a product for you. Not Suspicious Corporation presents Creepers for all of your creepy needs. These bugs are created especially for listening to confidential conversations that you really shouldn't be hearing. They're small and compact to allow easy and secretive placement in a variety of areas. The floor, the ceiling, the filing cabinets, the window. Any place you could possibly want to bug, Creepers can do it. For the low price of $200, you can be a creeper too.
Warning, side effects include political downfall, scandal, impeachment, jail time, and possible death.
Welcome to
H.A.S. What's happening, American Studies?
We bring you the news in funky fashion.
Today's January 15th, 1974, and you heard right, folks. Today we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite topic. Unfortunately, we don't have the same good news of the past. Recently, things have begun to go downhill in a trend that experts are calling economic stagnation.
Susan, what the heck does the word stagnation mean?
Well, Kathy, stagnation is defined by Merriam-Webster Dictionary as, quote, not advancing or developing, unquote. And that is exactly what our economy is doing right now.
Thanks, Susan. I totally knew that, but I just had to check in on our more uninformed viewers.
Great thinking, Kathy. Can you now tell us more about what is causing this stale economy?
Reports have surfaced that a variety of changes since the end of the war are combining to have major impact on the economy. However, the direct cause of the drop has not been entirely identified.
Some other suspects include an increase in females and teenagers in the workplace, a drop in machinery investment, a shift from manufacturing to service jobs, and the cost of health and safety regulation.
To expand, females and teens in the workforce is actually becoming an issue for the economy because they typically are less skilled than their counterparts and can only take part-time or low-paying jobs. This leaves openings in higher jobs, which causes an imbalance.
Kathy, looks like we might be out of a job soon. Just kidding, we deliver the news in funky fashion. No way we could get fired for something as arbitrary as harming the economy.
You're right, Susan. We shouldn't worry about that. We should worry about the potential other factors in the stagnant economy, such as the shift from manufacturing to service jobs. During the war, factory goods are required to send overseas. During the decade post-war, the U.S. sent aid to other countries and manufacturing was still in. Now, we do not have the same export demands as we used to, and service jobs have become a rising trend. As a result, consumerism struggles and inflation is reinforced.
But Kathy, what even is inflation? I feel like I might have tried to learn it in my 10th grade history class, but I had absolutely no real understanding of it.
Lucky for you, Susan, I can explain it. Inflation happens when there's an increase in prices and a drop in the purchasing value of money. Recently, the U.S. has experienced an inflammatory trend causing the value of the dollar to drop. This, coupled with a drop in average income, has led to major changes in the standard living of the younger generations.
During the post-war era of prosperity, Americans developed into a highly consumerist nation because they had money to spend on non-essentials. Are you telling me that this consumerist trend would eventually lead to more inflation?
That's exactly right, Susan. And who we have left up to dealing with in this weak economic period? Why, only the most honest and trustworthy man in America, Richard Nixon.
Oh, Kathy, you're such a silly goose. Hopefully Nixon can figure out a way to deal with this before we end up in a situation more stressful than filming this newscast.
Well, on a light note, that's all the time we have today. Catch you later, folks.
Welcome to
W-A-S. What's happening, American Studies?
We bring you the news in funky fashion.
December 17, 1973, and we are here to spice up your morning with something faster moving than the oil moving through those pipes. Am I right, Deb? Deb?
Oh, sorry, Kathy. It took me 17 hours to get here from home because of the new speed limits that have struck the country.
What a good segue, Deb. Thanks. And as our viewers have seen, Nixon has recently imposed a national speed limit of 55 miles per hour in order to try and save the oil and rubber. We are suffering from an extreme shortage right now.
Fun fact, it actually isn't saving any oil at all, only about 1% of your tank. Way to go, Nixon. Not to mention, it definitely isn't saving me any time getting to work.
You're right, Deb. What about when I go on road trips? I want to be able to drive faster than 55 on those long, straight roads that no one drives on. I have places to go, people to see.
You're right, Kathy, and that's not all. The oil embargo has caused a shortage of rubber, oil, and manufactured goods, as well as hurt our economy. It also caused a toilet paper shortage. That is just ridiculous. This is a freaking mess. How could this happen?
Oh, Deb, calm down. You're getting so heated that you might melt the Cold War.
Oh, Kathy, you're absolutely right. And anyway, who am I, a woman, to have an opinion anyway? Anyway, let's get further into the embargo and what's happening. Recently, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or the OPEC, has enacted an embargo on oil against the US, the Netherlands, and Denmark.
But why would OPEC do such a thing, Deb?
Well, Kathy, the OPEC decided to ban all trade to the US because of the US, Denmark, and the Netherlands aiding the Israeli military during Yom Kippur War.
Deb, did you just say war? Why were most people not aware of this?
Well, Kathy, believe it or not, most Americans have no idea what is happening outside of the country. A lot of conflicts have slipped past them, including the Yom Kippur War. In October 1973, Egypt and Syria attacked Israel with strong forces. They initially held the upper hand but were eventually beaten down by aid from the US and their allies to Israeli forces. The countries of OPEC, all affiliated with Egypt and Syria, were angered by outside involvement and chose to enact an oil embargo as an attempt at gaining political power. Recently, the price of oil has risen 130% in the US because of the OPEC's embargo.
Oh no, this is so bad. Maybe now I'll have to start walking to work because I, as a woman, do not make enough money to pay for gas anymore.
For sure, but the US has created joint hands with 30 other countries in order to stabilize the price of oil and to conserve energy through the International Energy Agency.
Speaking of oil usage, people are already realizing that this will be an issue, and the government is working on some ideas on how to solve our oil shortage right here at home. Do you know what that idea is, Deb?
Of course I do. I see it here on this paper. It is the recently revealed plan for a Trans-Alaskan pipeline. We foresee a lot of pushback from Congress and environmental activists against the installment of the pipeline. However, it would provide much-needed oil in the U.S. without running the risk of having the supply cut off by angry countries. Not to mention, it might help the period of economic stagnation by providing a much-needed income.
Okay, Deb, I see your point, but do you have that paper written by David A. Brew that talks about the environmental impacts of the Alaskan pipeline? It's pretty serious stuff. I'm personally not sure how I feel about it.
I sure do.
The introduction lays out some of the main environmental concerns. The principal unavoidable effects would be 1. Disturbances of terrain, fish and wildlife habitat, and human environment. 2. The results of discharge from effluent in the tanker ballast treatment facility into Port Valdez and some of the intermediate amount of oil released into the ocean from tank cleaning operations at sea. And 3. The results associated with increased human pressures of all kinds of the environment. Other unavoidable effects would be those related to the increase of state and native cooperation revenues, accelerated cultural change of the native population, and extraction of the oil and the gas resource.
Thanks for that, Kathy. Our viewers needed to be informed on what's happening to the earth around them. I'm worried about this whole situation though, not gonna lie. Hopefully the embargo will be lifted by, say, March 1974. Maybe our trusty Secretary of State Kissinger can negotiate an end to fighting in Israel. I don't know, just throwing around some very specific ideas.
Kathy, I hope you're 100% correct, because the U.S. cannot afford any more financial losses from this.
Hopefully some good news to come on the issue. Catch you later.